Thank you so much, Arti. Thanks, Yashi. Honored to be here. Today, I'm going to give a talk on the state of the Eigen universe. I usually give talks which are forward-facing. This talk's focused on the present, on what we're doing right now, how things are going. Okay. Let me just put my phone here. Awesome. So what are we doing here? EigenLayer, one of the main goals is to promote more open innovation, which means anybody who wants to build something new should be able to come and build on top of EigenLayer. And if you look at what that means, if you look at any blockchain system, you have 4 layers. The security layer, which could be staking or mining or whatever. On top of which there's a consensus layer, which is basically showing you how nodes come to common agreement on anything. On top of which you execute the transactions that actually come through the system, and then you have applications that can be built on top. In Bitcoin, all these 4 things are bundled together into an app chain, and which is basically to send and receive Bitcoins. What Ethereum did is to expand this by creating applications as modules that can be built on top, smart contracts that anybody can deploy on top of a common system. So each application doesn't need to be its own blockchain. It's all sharing a common blockchain. And Ethereum then doubled down on this fundamental premise to build the roll-up era, where not only it's open innovation at the level of anybody can come and build applications, but you can even build new execution environments on top of a common consensus and security layer. However, so basically this is a doubling down on open innovation by Ethereum. What we did at EigenLayer is we observed that even in this system, there is still a bottleneck, which is that the consensus is shared. Which means, for example, like the total rate at which you can come to consensus is bottlenecked by this one consensus layer. And if you had a new idea how to build a better consensus system or a consensus for a different purpose, like you want to come to consensus on an oracle or on an AI inference or a new data storage protocol, all of this stuff, you need to go to a different system. What EigenLayer did is to expand this out and say now anybody can build whatever they want. You can build new consensus layers, new execution layers, new applications, all on top of a common shared security substrate. So you can think of EigenLayer as taking the core principle of Ethereum and then turbocharging it, accelerating it. And the goal is any crypto service that you would ever want to build, you should be able to express and build on top of EigenLayer. Okay, so when you think about this as the broad goal and look at what is going on particularly in the market structure, EigenLayer has underlying it a 4-sided marketplace. So what are the 4 sides? So stakers, people who bring money and promise that computations are done correctly. Operators who run you bring computational resources and run these networks. Developers who bring ideas and code that actually come together. So you can think of the stakers, operators, and AWS developers as working together to create a useful service. But this is only 3 sides of the marketplace. There's a 4th side, which is consumers. Somebody needs to use these services. And so you can think of EigenLayer as orchestrating this 4-sided marketplace: stakers, operators, developers, and consumers. Okay, and the first time when I presented this idea to former exec at AWS, Chris Jury, he said, this is insane. Building a 2-sided marketplace is difficult. Why are you trying to build a 4-sided one? And, eventually we convinced him. He joined us as COO. And we got on to starting this project where you think of you have these 4 sides. How do you go about bootstrapping it? You can actually go side by side. You start with stakers. That's what we did. And then we go to operators. Then we go to developers. Then we go to consumers. So today I'll present a state of the Eigen universe, which is what's going on in all these 4 sides and how are we doing. So number 1, staking. What did we do in staking? We invented this idea of restaking, which is you stake in Ethereum and then you can stake the same thing in other protocols built on top. And built on top of restaking emerged this category of liquid restaking tokens, liquid restaking protocols, which were built on top. And after we invented this category, now it's proliferated everywhere. Every chain has a restaking protocol, liquid restaking tokens, all this stuff, starting from Bitcoin to Solana to every other ecosystem. And however, you look at all of this stuff, there's only one protocol which has what we call native restaking, still EigenLayer. What is it? Native restaking means I can stake into a core protocol like Ethereum and stake onto other protocols without trusting anybody else. I don't need to trust an external operator, a liquid staking token, any of this stuff. And if you're an institution, you want to do this because it gives you more freedom and you can work with the parties that you actually want. If you're a home staker or a home operator, you can still participate in EigenLayer. So this is one of the main things we did. And you can look at, okay, so we invented the category of restaking. It's till now, even now, the only native restaking protocol. And but you go around and see like how is it actually going? How is adoption going? See news like this. Oh, EigenLayer TVL is down $10 billion. Then actually you go and look at the data. So this is the EigenLayer TVL on the staker side, plotted over time. And around end of April, it bumped up to around 5 million. And it's kind of hanging around in 5 million ETH, right? It's not in US dollars. And why are these people saying this? The TVL is down because they're measuring TVL in dollars, not in ETH. And ETH to USD is down. So TVL of EigenLayer is actually at near an all-time high. It's been basically going on. Okay, so that's the stakers side story so far. Okay, so one of our principles as we build EigenLayer is to not just, we have the greatest idea and we're just going to go and deploy it. We actually build, deploy, listen to users, and then iterate. So here's an example. Lefter is one of the deep core devs in the broader crypto ecosystem, builder of Roadkey app, wrote this thing in May 2024 that, hey, native restaking on EigenLayer is very expensive. It's, charges so much, So we took this feedback. We actually built a new breakthrough protocol for how to batch all these native staking things and reduce gas costs. And in September, he writes this tweet saying, instead of telling me off, they acknowledged the problem, worked on a solution, and actually he's really happy. So as an example of listen to users, iterate, invent new solutions, and then solve the problem. So, okay, I'm going over like an ecosystem update, stakers, that's the update. Operators in the EigenLayer ecosystem bring computational resources to run whatever new services that you want. And what we see is they're bringing all kinds of computational resources to bear, not only CPU, even CPU, are you running on the cloud, are you running on-prem, are you running bare metal, all kinds of configurations, GPUs, trusted execution environments, all kinds of things. You can run anything you want on top of EigenLayer. So we have lots of operators on the EigenLayer protocol, starting from the deep crypto ones like Figment and P2P to Coinbase and Google Cloud, all through the spectrum. Okay, so stakers and operators went on testnet November last year, and April this year they went on mainnet. Stakers, operators, both sides bootstrapped. We not only have professional operators like this, we also have thousands of home operators in the Ethereum ecosystem. Okay, the next side of the marketplace is AVSs, actively validated services. Actively validated services, such a boring, technical, non-sexy name, but it has become a category. Creating a category is really, really hard, right? And one of the things we see in the EigenLayer ecosystem is we've not just created one category, we've created many categories. Restaking, liquid restaking tokens, AVSs, and more to come. So when you talk about like creating a category, now you see that AVSs as a term is not just used in EigenLayer, but all the other staking, restaking protocols and being adopted all over the industry. And they say one of the best forms of praise is imitation. And so here's an example from the Solana ecosystem. Our friends claiming that, hey, finally we found a real use case for restaking in August. Squads, which is one of the really cool protocols in Solana, using policy enforcement. Amazing stuff. They're saying, oh, this is all invented on Solana. But you look at it, you see Ethos, one of the projects in the EigenLayer ecosystem, the first decentralized policy engine has been invented on EigenLayer back in February. We're not complaining that this is a bad thing. It's actually a good thing that it's being adopted all over the industry. The main thing is EigenLayer created this category of AVSs. And so people who invent new things are naturally attracted. And there are many, many, categories like that. ZKTLS, decentralized proving, AI, crypto economic co-process. Now, all of these terms, many of them came from the EigenLayer ecosystem. So AVS category map. So I gave this talk, 1 year back on what categories should AVSs be built in? Firstly, this idea that this is an actively validated service. When you think about staking and restaking, you stake, and then what do you stake for? Normally, you think you should be staking for a chain. We invented this idea that you're not staking for a chain, you stake for a service. A service is any off-chain computation that you would want to run. And so that's why we call it actively validated services, not chains. And this is a category map that we created, like aspirationally. Hey, come and build all these categories on EigenLayer. Roll-up services, sequencing, bridging, MEV, watchtowers, keepers, co-processors, AI inference, all these categories, like crazy ideas presented 1 year back. And today, every category is being built. Not just one participant per category, multiple participants per category. So here are some of the names in each of these categories. And what we find is not just that, hey, we come up with some great idea and everybody's building. No, it's actually AVS's invent. Restaked rollup is a concept. We are the rollup day here at EigenLayer. Restaked rollup is a concept invented by EigenLayer. We didn't come up with it. And it's a mechanism for rollups to acquire a certain portion of security for sequencing, finalization, bridging. And so AVS's invent, they come up with all these crazy ideas. And that's the thesis of open innovation, is we don't know all the right things to do. The builders know what the right things to do. And we have 18 AVSs on mainnet, 40 on testnet, and 100 plus in development. Okay, building an AVS, if you're thinking about, hey, I'm building a service, where do I build? It's actually a really hard problem because, it takes you 6 months to 1 year to build an AVS. And you want to choose a platform which you think is going to exist for at least 4 years if you're investing that kind of time. But what we see is actually many, many people taking this bet. And we see way beyond our original intention. We have lots of roll-up services. We have deep-in. We have fully homomorphic encryption. We have this whole category of ZK TLS. The idea that you can go and query input data from the internet. For example, you have a driver reputation on Uber that you want to bring onto a new decentralized blockchain system. You can do it today on EigenLayer through one of the several AVSs that are building on top of this. You have intelligent DeFi, like I run a DeFi protocol, but I need to augment it with additional off-chain intelligence. You can do that on EigenLayer. Decentralized AI inference, I want to have AI inference be done and the results be brought on chain. You can do that. On Ethereum mainnet, I'm running an Ethereum L1 validator and I want to make a promise that certain L2 transactions will be included. These are called pre-con, for pre-confirmations. Many protocols building in. So really just insane amount of innovation and invention happening in the ecosystem. Okay, so I gave a quick overview of the three sides: stakers, operators, and AVS developers. But when you want to bring these sides together, you want to bring them together in a working, functioning economy. So how does the economy work? And here again, our original design was based on what we call fully shared security. Fully shared security basically means if I stake and I put $100 million in stake and I opt into 20 AVSs, any one of those AVSs can slash my entire 100 million. Okay, so this was the original theory of EigenLayer shared security. And one of our ecosystem participants, Jane, actually wrote this post sometime back, which said, hey, there's no incentive for AVSs to pay and grow the stake. Reason is, if you had like a common pool of $10 billion of stake and the stakes opted into hundreds of AVSs, the marginal cost to opt into a new AVS is small, so why not just opt into everything and the cost that AVSs pay go to zero? So this is a big problem. So we took this feedback, not just from Jane, but from the entire ecosystem, and actually invented a solution to this problem called unique security. Unique security is a mechanism where if I'm staking 100 million and opting into 10 AVSs, I can specify how much portion of stake is slashable by each AVS. So what this does is to have unique assignment of stake to AVSs. And so what this means is, if I'm an AVS and I want unique security, I need to pay for it. So, we did this unique security thing, and then we go and see what does our community think. And here is Ismail from Lagrange, one of the projects in our ecosystem. And they're very happy that this actually allows AVSs to rightly balance the incentives and what services they get from that. Okay, so the economics I explained, but the shared security not only leads to some economic problems like the tragedy of the commons, but also led to a bunch of other constraints, like you need a veto committee for slashing. Why is this? If the same stake can be slashed by any one AVS, if one AVS goes crazy, then the whole stake is at risk. So you need to protect it. How do we protect it? We have a committee that can veto slashing. Of course, this makes us squirm. Like we're building in crypto and putting a committee in the middle. And that means also now that committee has to authorize which services are building on top of EigenLayer. We don't like it, so we improved it. In unique security, we removed this idea. No need for a veto committee, no need for permission for building AVSs. Anybody can build and deploy AVSs, no permission needed, no committee that can veto these things. Here is a quote from Shapiro, one of the crypto super lawyers. So his original quote from several months back, hey, if I understand right, everything on EigenLayer is social slashing. A committee is going to decide everything. He doesn't like it, It's not legally good, it's not socially good, it's not ethos-wise correct. And we post the new EigenLayer security model, and Shapiro goes, wow, and just like that, EigenLayer fixed most of the issues. Again, community feedback, invent, iterate rapidly, and ship. So that's the EigenLayer ethos. Okay, so beyond the core set of things we talked about, staker operator AVSs, how to tie them together in an economy, we also are building a service called EigenDA on top. And some people are confused, like why is a restaking platform building a DA service? Makes no sense. Actually, I'll argue that it makes no sense not to do it. Okay, what is restaking? Restaking is crypto economic security. Crypto economic security basically means if you're harmed by the actions of a staker or operator, you can actually trigger slashing. That's what it means. But to trigger slashing, I need the data relative to that particular transaction to be available. I need to be able to know what happened in order to go and trigger the slashing. So if I'm building an AVS, the security of this AVS is only as good as the data availability. If the data is not available, crypto economic security makes no sense. Okay, here's the thing that all the restaking copycats need to learn. Without a secure DA, restaking is not useful. Restaking is only as good as the DA that you're building it on top of. So we need not only a secure DA, we need actually a data availability system which can handle all the AVSs put together. Imagine each AVS is like a chain. You want to take all of these chains and run them all together on a common DA because you're only as good as the worst DA security. Okay, so is it possible? Can you have one DA on which you can run all these AVSs? Should not be possible, right? Okay, no, actually it's possible, and we build the DA to do it. EigenDA is a data availability service that we built, and here's an experiment we recently did. I encourage you to go check it out, EigenDA.wtf. And the experiment is, we call it all chains fit on EigenDA. And the experiment is we post blocks from every chain, I'll tell you which chains, every chain, and put it on top of the EigenDA mainnet. Just scroll every block live and then throw it on top. And even if you do that, EigenDA's bandwidths only use 50%. Like you still have 50% slack. So what chains am I talking about? Talking about not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also Solana, Celestia, Arbitrum, Celo, Phantom, Avalanche, everything. Everything we could crawl, right? Some things have like bad event handlers, so we couldn't crawl them, but others we could crawl, we have. Okay, so that's EigenDA, the only horizontally scaled system in all of crypto. What does horizontally scaled means? The more nodes you have in the system, the better it functions, the higher the throughput that you can run. So, we have a lot of interesting adoption on this thing, including things like Celo, which are L1, which wanted to come to Ethereum ecosystem, things like MegaETH and Movement, which are building new and scalable systems, Versailles, many, many interesting new systems being built on EigenDA. Okay, but EigenDA is not there simply to solve the crypto economic DA problem. It's also there to bootstrap consumers. So if you looked at the original slide, there were 4 sides to our marketplace: staker, operator, AVS developer, and consumers. How do you get consumers? Very difficult. So what we do is we say, hey, rollups that are building on application rollups that are building on top of EigenDA, Now they can start consuming other AVSs in the Eigen ecosystem. When you are building an AVS, when you're building these various application rollups and they're using EigenLayer already, the marginal cost to consume other AVS is actually very little. So you can do that. So this is actually a mechanism for bootstrapping the fourth side of the EigenLayer marketplace, AVS consumers. People, applications that use all these complex infrastructure services built on the EigenLayer ecosystem. Okay, so back to our original picture, we have the four sides of the marketplace: stakers, operators, AVS developers, and consumers. Stakers, we have like this huge amount of TVL and economic security. Operators, we have thousands of operators, hundreds of top operators. AVS developers, hundreds of AVSs being built. Consumers, with infinite throughput, or not practically infinite. With EigenLayer, you can actually build anything you want on top of this ecosystem. And finally, at the center of all of this, the coordination mechanism for getting all these sides working together is the Eigen token. And the Eigen token is not just another ERC20 token, a governance token that is like built on top of crypto. It actually does a little bit more. It's a work token. And a work token basically means it's useful for staking and slashing, not just for on-chain observable things, for which you can write clear slashing contracts, but for any off-chain observable thing, you can actually use the Eigen token. So Eigen tokens built on slashing by forking. It's a radically new design. I don't have time to go over it today, but there is a talk I gave at SBC that I can point you to later. Okay, so it unlocks much more innovation. You can now build, and you want to build a new AVS, but you don't want to sit and write complex slashing contracts. Then you can actually just plug them on top of Eigen staking, and you can get like really powerful crypto economic features. You can build gaming, databases, intent, order matching, MEV, or things that you can never even write fraud proofs for. Data availability, prediction markets. Imagine you're taking a polymarket bet on who's the US president from the next election. How does the chain know what the right answer is, who the president is, to slash these guys correctly? And you can use the Eigen token for all of these things. Similarly, the whole category of AI. So with that, I'll conclude the talk. And, so just say that I think when we think about a platform like EigenLayer, when you have all these different sides, it's extraordinarily difficult to get all of the sides come together to create a functioning economy. Not just you need them to show up, but you need the economics and the incentives to work correctly in order for the system to work. And that's what we're aspiring to build at EigenLayer. Thank you.